I can't believe I'm having to go here again with and I do apologise if I'm having to cough in places, folks, but the strep throat has got me. As a bit,
It's
Same goes for me, unfortunately.
well,
it's that time of year, folks, and there's a lot of it going around this time.
yeah, and this is why I wasn't live Tuesday and Wednesday because I could barely talk without coughing. I mean, I'm still going to be coughing during this, but it's not at the level where I didn't even have a voice. I couldn't even whisper.
Yikes!
Oh, dear God. That's fucking sucks.
So, with this article coming up, I'm going to be reading the article and then I'm going to try and read my response after it. So I'm only going to get a chance to do both of these in one take. So, here goes. And we're having to do this again. Why Back to the Future could benefit from a reboot? So much know already. This supposed untouchable gem is not as sacred as you might think. I beg to differ. It is time to revisit this classic, no it isn't, and see how it could be updated and improved. You cannot improve on perfection, shut your mouth. There are some films that refuse to be remade, updated, or rebooted. See Citizen Kane and Casablanca. Never saw Casablanca, but I understand the cultural impact it's had on cinema. Leave it alone. This is mostly because people feel they are too perfect. However, movies have always been the subject of reboots. Tell us something we don't know. People love to say this is a new phenomenon, but it's been happening for decades. One of the next films on the reboot list should be the classic time-traveling film franchise Back to the Future. No, 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 and no. The sci-fi movie, written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, stars Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, a high school student that goes back in time with the help of scientist Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, and a 1981 DeLorean. There is a musical version hitting Broadway next year, but that isn't the same as a new movie. I'll grant them that. Let's explore why it's time to return to the world of car-induced time travel, even if it might take a bit of extra work to make it great. Excuse me?
No.
There's already a precedent for reboots. Alright, granted, in the right context and in the right cases, yes. Because if someone say, I want to remake Batman and Robin but do it better, have at it. I want to do Spider-Man 3 better, have at it. I want to do Jurassic Park 3 better. Pfft, good luck! I want to make Superman 4 better. Is that even possible?
I would have made Godzilla 1998 better.
That's physically impossible. Don't try.
I want to make a Hulk Hogan movie better. How? Get rid of Hulk Hogan. Oscar bait!
Genius. Genius.
Consider A Star Is Born. The most recent version starred Lady Gaga. Now, to be fair, I didn't know that was a reboot. I didn't know that. Was made in 2018.
Yeah, it's a...
However, it was a remake of a 1976 movie starring Barbara Streisand, and she's been the subject of a few jokes courtesy of Matt Stone and Trey Parker. And that was a remake of a 1954 movie starring Judy Garland, which was a remake of the 1937 movie starring Janie Gaynor. Wow.
How many remakes is that?
That's at least 3. As 4 different versions. Each was hugely popular, and each time people said it shouldn't be done. Back to the Future came out in 1985, spawned 2 sequels, and brought us the duo of Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. These two went on 3 madcap adventures that were essentially the same movie repackaged in 3 different eras. Alright, I'll give them that. Therefore, the question is not whether it should be rebooted, but actually what a reboot would look like. Writer and director Zemeckis laid the groundwork, so it is time to thank him and take the necessary steps to develop an updated version. There are elements to keep and update. Like any reboot, there are certain things we need to keep. This means that the plot should remain similar, the tropes should all be there, and certain characters should stick around. For this movie, there are 5 things we need to keep. Time travel, duh, awkward parents, a bully, Doc Brown, and an interesting time travel vehicle. As long as these are kept in place, people may accept it. Let's talk about the vehicle. The DeLorean was cool mostly because it had gull-wing doors. However, it was a dull metal grey. That's because it's stainless steel. There's not a lot you can do with that. It could have a bunch of futuristic stuff glued to it to make it look interesting. You didn't find a DeLorean interesting? What cold childhood must you have had? The fact it's considered the coolest car is only because it was in the movie. But the car itself was a bit of a dud. Alright, I'll grant them that. The DeLorean was not the most technically sound car to drive. Thankfully, the DeLorean Motor Company that's based in Texas, they've actually ironed out the faults of the car. So, yeah. This is a chance to update it with a similar dud that could be retooled and added to make it look more futuristic. So a similar dud. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E. I went there. I don't care. Let's try the Tesla Cybertruck. Unlike... oh, yeah, that thing. Oh. Unlike other more interesting vehicles, it doesn't have the best look and is going to sell about 12 units. That means, much like the DeLorean, it will be a strange collector's item that will make a perfect base for all the fun, superfluous extras that Doc would add. The car will still obviously need a flux capacitor. This was the Y-shaped device that was the key to time travel. Doc Brown fought it when he bonked his head in 1955 on his toilet seat. Something else that needs to change is the time frame. The movie began in 85 and found Marty travelling back to 1955. This needs to be updated because a modern take should be modernised. Well, duh. Therefore, we can place our protagonist in 2023 and have them go back to 1993. That way we get a modern take that lets us stay fun and adventurous. Alright. Objectively, I'm going to agree with that point because a kid that goes back from 2023 to 1953, they're going to feel so out. Well, they're going to feel out of place in the 90s even, but at least with 90s, there's enough tech there that doesn't make them feel like a fish out of water so much. Whereas if you send them back to the 50s, no, it's not going to look so good. What a Back to the Future reboot should look like. Here's what we think a reboot should look like. Teenage African-American twins take their parents' car for a joyride and get in a minor accident. They are punished by helping an older man that their father met who says he's a scientist. When they get there, the crazy scientist tells them that they needs their help and that they need this. This scientist is Doc Brown. As they time travel back in time to 1993 in a modified Tesla Cybertruck, they inadvertently stop their parents from meeting, are taken in by their grandmother, become friends with their parents in high school, learn about their culture, and get their parents together. In the end, they find the younger Doc Brown, who helps them fix the flux capacitor and sends them home. When they get back, the parents are happy, they're cooler, and life seems that much better. So they are repeating, the aesthetics of the first movie again. Also, why does it have to be twins? Why can't it just still be the one person that goes back? It doesn't have to be twins. I just feel like...
I'm still stuck on the African-American part.
I didn't want to bring that up just in case that was not my place to say.
Oh, don't worry.
The cast should be a mix of established actors anchoring a cast of younger up-and-comers. Okay, grant them that. Who will carry the film. Examples include Amandla Stenberg, Bodies, Colston Stewart, Zolo Meriduena, hope I pronounced that right, she's from Cobra Kai, and Sacha Baron Cohen. No, and no. Absolutely not. Of course, there needs to be cameos from Lloyd and Fox and references to the original films. With a strong cast and decent starting point, a reboot of Back to the Future could be a hit. There will always be the die-hard fans who refuse to accept a reboot, especially with colourblind casting. But a new generation deserves their own version of this fan favourite if the director signs off. And he won't. Back to the Future could be the next big reboot that not only brings kids to a new movie, but gives them a reason to reach for the original. And now, my response.
Uh-oh.
The problem I have with this article and any other subject of remaking this movie is that's why take something that is already perfect and remaking and running the risk of tarnishing the legacy. I have maintained for the better part of 12 years that a movie should only be rebooted if it is one of the following. 1. A comic book character series, because there are multiple stories that can be told. And this partially ties into the first reason as well. If the former was terrible beyond recognition and a director with the right vision and script can realize the potential for the story and deliver it the way it was intended. Back to the Future was delivered the way it was intended, if not more so. As Nick Nugent once said, it is the perfect trilogy that should never be messed with. It exists in a world in of itself, as it's always in a time loop. You will never get performances that appeal to audiences of all ages that are able to find something rewarding. And the fact that universities teach classes on Back to the Future, from execution in writing, acting, and the use of effects, just shows the lasting effect this movie has had on cinema and pop culture in general. And all this came from an idea from Bob Gale when he pondered the idea of what if he went to school with his father when he was a teenager. Personally, if I went to school with my father as a teenager, I'd find that kind of awkward. You can have a comic book and a video game series because it's not messing with what's already established. Christopher Lloyd is Doc Brown. No one else can play him. There is only one Marty McFly, and his name is Michael J. Fox, and there ain't nobody who can tell me otherwise. And Hollywood, you already tried to reboot an 80s franchise before, and look what happened. We got Feedbusters, and the whole world told you what the fans thought of that. No one went to see it. And that's why we got the giant apology movie from last year. The movie we should have gotten to begin with. Don't get me wrong. I like the idea of a 2020s kid accidentally going back in time to the 90s, because a 20s kid would be intrigued to see what life was like with VHS tapes, video game cartridges, and Sony Walkmans. But they'd hate the idea of no internet, no cell phones, although they'd be intrigued by the idea of the original idea of social media, talking to people in person and going out and meeting up. Just don't call it Back to the Future. Also, Zemeckis and Gale have said repeatedly, since they own the movie rights, no one can reboot that series whilst they're still alive. Also, while some aspects of a possible reboot intrigue me, some scare me. Like, what if they made it woke? Back to the Future succeeded as a franchise because it was apolitical. It just told a great story that captivated generations of audiences. The moment you bring politics into a story is where the potential lies for it to be ruined. Don't believe me? Feedbusters, Birds of Prey, and the Charlie's Angels reboot no one watched nor asked for. Don't call me Angel. Rated. Shut up. Sonic the Hedgehog succeeded because it told a great story. The original Jurassic Park, while you could make the argument there were maybe some politics in it, it was more to address the potential dangers of resurrecting ancient species onto the planet for the first time in 65 million years, but it did so without insulting its audience. Back to the Future does not require a reboot. The fans don't want it, nor the creators. It is perfect the way it is. Hollywood, if you're that desperate to remake a movie, I have 3 suggestions for you, free of charge, that you can remake and attempt to do better. Number 1, Superman 3. Number 2, Batman and Robin. And 3rd, Jurassic Park 3. I'm done. Sir Stephen, you have the floor.
How many times do we have to keep repeating ourselves? Just because you can does not mean you should.
Indeed.
I mean, where did they even think that the idea of remaking Back to the Future would be good? Some movies are just timeless classics.
Exactly.
And it's like trying to make a perfect bar of gold after you've smelted it down from a already perfectly bar of gold to begin with. You won't get the same thing twice.
Nope.
This is what I say with the Disney remakes. Lightning doesn't strike twice. No matter how much you try to dress it up for the modern age. Films become classics because they were made at the time where they were made with love and creative spark. just remaking something on the basis of wanting money does not mean you'll get success.
That's true.
Yeah, I can't fault that whatsoever, dude.
Until Hollywood understands, then they're never going to learn.
I mean, the last decent thing Hollywood put out was Top Gun 2.
Mm.
Anything further to add, dude?
Nope. I've had my piece.
Madam President, you may draw your sword.
And honestly, in the consensus of everyone, when I say don't remake Back to the Future, which is like, leave it where it is. It's a gem of a movie. You don't need to remake it. Like, again, there's some argument to be said about movies that, like, they should have, like, either reboots or remakes. Like, the one thing that, besides Top Gun Maverick, the only other reboot/remake that worked was Prey, which was basically a reboot of the Predator franchise, which I think it is.
Yeah.
And that, guess what? It had a female protagonist who wasn't shoved down our fucking throats. She,
Imagine
like, the
that.
character was just, she was a character who wanted to, like, again, was trying to escape social norms of that time, of prehistoric times, where well, not prehistoric times so much as times of, like, of tribes where, like, women weren't allowed to, were supposed to stay home. She wanted to help hunt and help her tribe. And she became, and spoilers for the movie, she became the tribe leader by, guess what? Killing the fucking Predator!
That fight was dope as hell, though.
Yes, it was. So you can do a good remake, and you can do it without involving woke sensibilities. I'm sick to death of wokeness for to a degree. I mean, there's a way to do it without shoving it down our throats. You could be subtle about it, but when has Hollywood ever been subtle?
No comment.
And that automatically dates it.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's like, again, there are some timeless things about, like, let's say, race relations, or you don't have to go too far, because guess what? Sadly, it's sad to say, racism's still gonna be a thing. We can't escape this. Racism's still gonna be a thing, but you don't have to add a bunch of other shit, name drop shit. Just racism is bad. How can we fix that? That's it. You don't need to freaking shove all these things to date the movie.
No.
Again, I understand the point of view of this article, but you could do that with anything else. You don't need to remake Back to the Future. Just take a different idea. You don't have to use an existing property to make a decent movie. It seems rather silly, if you ask me.
It's like I say, if the original movie was terrible, I'd say, okay, here's the keys to the DeLorean, have at it. But that one movie has spawned, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of adoring fans since 1985 because they love it the way it is. Because, like I say, you're not going to get writing performances like that ever again, and especially the score. Terrible. Terrible with names at the moment. Hang on, to Wikipedia a second, because I know he also did the score for the Avengers as well. Alan Silvestri. His score for Back to the Future, perfect. You hear that score and it's just like, oh yeah. And when he did it live for the 25th anniversary at an auditorium in Los Angeles, somebody edited in footage of part 1 and part 2, and with a CG scene of the DeLorean in hover mode going around LA, and it's just like, it takes you back to your youth. I mean, it's not to say nobody could do a modern version of the Back to the Future score. But the thing is, it's like with certain scores. You think, when someone says, think of the Superman theme, they automatically go to John Williams from 1978. You ask them, think of Jaws, they think of John Williams' score. Ask them, think of the most ideal Spider-Man theme outside of the 90s animated theme. And for all the crap we give Danny Elfman, he did give Spider-Man a decent theme in that trilogy. And it's the same thing with the Danny Elfman score for Batman in Batman and Batman Returns. It's like, it gets you going. So I don't know what they do with a modern Back to the Future score, because it's like we said, some things you just don't mess with. I mean, let's say for whatever reason we got like a Spider-Man No Way Home styled Blade movie where the Wesley Snipes incarnation meets the new one. You know, you'd have still have the decent theme from Snipes' version, but what if for the new one they got, I don't know, Nicki Minaj to do the theme? And there's Raiden be like, don't do that, man, don't do that. And speaking of the Zen Master, your thoughts on the article?
Alright, unlike some people, okay. Crazy enough, I do own Back to the Future 3 on VHS, but I never ever watched it. I guess that's my parents' era. But just like Liz, I definitely agree with the consensus that it should never ever be rebooted. If anything, I think it should spawn a spinoff. If you ask me, I don't know, do a fat Farmer's Fly son or daughter, stumbles on a DeLorean that's about to be like sold or something like that, gets to the future, and it's kind of sort of like the first movie or whatever, but just like you see, the son or daughter basically interacting with Marty as a kid, I guess. I don't know, I'm spitballing here, but if anything, I would like to see more iconic movies or whatever just get spin-offs instead of just reboots.
Yeah. Oh no. I totally agree.
I don't know. Hollywood's obsession is just like trying to remake films that are actually perfect. It's always going to be their downfall. Always going to get people say like, okay, what is this? This isn't the movie that I loved or whatever. I don't know, man. It's always shicey when it comes to them. So, and that whole article is just so pretentious the way you read it. Like, you saw the movie, you saw all the imperfections or whatever. If it worked for that era, it worked. And that way, people who grow up with the movie can show it to their kids. Their kids can show it to their kids.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's just always an obsessive nature to remake everything. I think that, and I'm definitely on board with Steve saying I'm kind of annoyed with all these Disney remakes and whatnot, just like messing up the foundation of what made the original film great. I don't know. It's just a massive obsession that needs to be stopped. But we all know Hollywood. We all know these companies are going to do whatever they want to do just to pump out money. It worked last time. It's like you said. I don't get it. I don't want to get it.
Nope. Absolutely. No, couldn't agree more with that.